All right, what is up, everybody, and welcome to Futures Trading with NinjaTrader, where we talk all things futures, levels, long, short. We trade live here as well in a simulated account. We'll give you all the action, but let's get that intro going. What is up, Jim Cagnina?
How are you,
Senior
man?
Education and Training Specialist over at NinjaTrader. I am good. I was just having a conversation with you about I don't know what to do with the SPY and the ES market because I've gone short twice. I've made money. I've gone long once. I've made money. And now I'm kind of unsure what to do with my life.
Yeah, it's a tough call. And remember, this week is anticipatory, right? Wednesday's the big day, 2 o'clock East Coast time. Announcement, 2:30. They're going to wheel out Chairman Powell in front of a podium. He reads a speech, answers questions. So that's going to be critical going forward. Right now, I think we're in anticipatory mode. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised we're even this high in the mini S&P. I mean, we're up what? I'm looking at a micro contract. We're up eight handles right now, 8 points. Now, one key though to consider is the previous session's point of control, where the most volume was. I'm just going to put my crosshairs right there, 38.64. So it's a little bit lower than today's point of control, which is 95. And a lot of times these points of control don't move around that much Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday morning of an FOMC week. That's not always the case, but most of the time it is. So, I don't see a big breakaway rally day today, to be honest with you. I think what you did was good. It was good, right? Looking for places to sell, looking for places to buy within a range, within the daily range.
Yep.
So now the opening range today, I think, is kind of interesting because, the low of the opening range, the first 30 minutes of regular trading hours, that's what we call the opening range. The low was 38.53. And then the high was right at the pivot up here, 38.68. So I envision that area as a really important area of interest right there. And again, I think going forward, it could even become support. So, on a pullback down, I'd be looking to try to buy in that area right there if we want to get a pullback down.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that. By the way, I did just go ahead and go long on the SPY because I trade the SPY, right? So I'm going to kind of reference that a little bit. And of course, you can translate that to me for the ES because I've got levels at 386 on the SPY that were kind of sort of resistance. And I think that might be around 38.95 on the futures.
Okay.
Now that we're above that, to me, I'm thinking, hey, we might go a little bit upside because I expect a chop. I expect a chop between the 30-minute range that you talked about from the highs to the low. I expected it to be kind of there, and maybe we'll get that. It poked above, but maybe it'll come back and close a 10-minute candle. But I agree with you. That's what I expected. The market peaked a little bit above that resistance area, and as that golden volume bar that you have there, what's it called again?
So it's just okay. This is called the point of control, and this golden bar here is where it's just as simple as where the most volume is traded since the session started. That's all, and it moves around in real time, and it expresses to me where market happiness is, where more deals are done than any other place. And the whole distribution tells us that it's a little bit of an odd distribution, and that it's not very, very bell shaped. It's got a big divot here. 92 all the way down to 89, right? Sometimes those get filled in, sometimes they don't. But most of that volume action has been taken on the north side of this chart.
Market happiness. I love that term there. But I will say this. It looks like you've got a trade open that I want to kind of visit on the MCL. And by the way, for the folks that are new here, the trades that are being executed are live. They are on a simulated account. So this isn't real money. It's paper money. However, the information that you're seeing, the data that you're seeing is in real time. So just a heads up there. But tell us about the trade that you currently have.
Yeah, so the market fooled me a little bit, right? So I'm bearish on crude oil from a long-term point of view. I was bearish on crude oil today. Look at the trend. I mean, it was nonstop selling all night long, all pre-market long, and we finally had a little bit of rally on the U.S. Open, which is telling me that there's a little bit of a correlation between the equities and crude oil right now. I sold 3 units at S1, right? This is a daily pivot number, and we rallied up a little bit higher. My stop now is at the pivot, at the main pivot number, which is above the 76% retracement. And so right now we're underwater on the trade, and then I have a series of targets down below, like one contract, one contract, one contract. I'm going to tighten everything up as we go, or we're going to get stopped out. This did surprise me, this turnaround in crude, but crude's been really volatile lately, so it's you got to be on your game. So best practices, make sure you have your stop loss in.
Aaron's got a question for us here. Cool. What's its name? Is it exclusive to that platform? So the platform that we're using is NinjaTrader. I'm not sure what I think. Are we talking about the volume profile in terms of what's its name? If you tell me a little bit more information, Aaron, Jim can answer that. But it's called a volume profile. Is that right, Jim, on the left-hand side?
Yeah, it is. This is volume profile. It's similar to market profile, but a little different. It's just tracking volume throughout the course of the session. And it's highly customizable on the NinjaTrader platform. My guess is you could probably get it somewhere else if you looked hard enough, but it works really well here. It updates in real time, and it's a critical tool for me.
Awesome. There you go. Hopefully that answers your question, Aaron. So that volume profile, when you put that in, it comes with that golden bar information, or is there more of a setting you have to do?
No, the settings are simple. And I can show you really quickly here. We won't take up too much time, but I'm just going to
Yeah.
open up the settings for the volume profile colors. You could change colors, calculate on each tick, and then the main thing is ticks per level, right? So the height of every single histogram bar that I'm looking at is 4 ticks high, right? So it's calculating volume within that 4 tick range. Otherwise, it gets a little too granular for me. You could change this to an even number like 8 if you wanted to or I'm sorry, this is actually crude oil, so we probably should make it an even number. So 5 or 10 would be a good number to make even number into how it's
Got it.
traded from a fractional point of view. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It comes out of the box like that. It's called order flow volume profile on the NinjaTrader platform.
There you go. Perfect. And of course, if anytime you want to watch Jim trade in the mornings, you can go to ninjatrader.com/events. And of course, they've got that in the first 30 minutes. And they've also got bars closing to close out the markets. We'll get more information from Jim on that. But let's go ahead. And so what's interesting here on this trade that you've got is you've got a stop, which is, hey, you know what? All 3 units, bye-bye, right? And you're scaling out. So to me, it's kind of like a nice risk reward because right now you got into the trade. I'm trying to see at 83.84, and your stop loss is about 85. So you're risking about a buck 20 if I did the math right, right?
Yep.
However, on your out, you're getting yourself what is that? A 50 cents on the first out, and then you're getting about yourself $1 and some change on the second, and obviously 3-4 bucks on the third one. So I like the way you're scaling out because that really helps your risk reward and to make sure that you don't have to be right a high percentage amount of times to be profitable. We actually were just talking about that, which is why it's cool that you're kind of doing it as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, and there's a couple of strategies you could use too. Let's say that, I'm fortunate enough to get this first unit off the table, right?
Yeah.
And so then I'd be short 2 contracts instead of 3, which means I'd have to change my stop from a 3 lot to a 2 lot. Now, another strategy would be, hey, now that we got 1 unit in our pocket, right? We cashed out on 1 unit. Let's bring that stop to break even and then see if we could get the other 2 units, let them ride. Right. So that's a strategy. Or even if you're more conservative than that, or I should say less conservative, hey, once we get the second unit, then let's move our stop down to break even and then let this last one be a runner. So those are things you could do from an active trade management point of view.
Yeah, and what's cool is you can just kind of put on your trade, leave it. And what I really love about the NinjaTrader platform is you can move the sticks to what levels you may want instead of like
Yeah.
canceling, having to putting in. There you go. I love that. That just makes life
Yeah.
so much easier because you're able to look at the charts and be like, okay, here, because you see how it kind of goes all the way to the left, right? Like the crosshairs does, and it's kind of that's what I love. It's like, hey, cool. On the left side, I see here's where the levels are. I'm going to put it right above instead of you having to be like, oh, what is this level? Oh, let me go back, put it back in. So that's what I really love about that NinjaTrader platform feature.
Yeah, no, and I was a slow adopter. I mean, for a lot of my career, I like the trading ladder. NinjaTrader's got a great Superdome, both the static and dynamic Superdome, and I always use that. But I've come to the point where I made that same observation that you just made: is hey, I can really visualize the whole field right now, and I can see where
Exactly.
there's areas of interest, and it's helping me considerably be more patient, also.
Yeah, me as a visual learner, I definitely love and appreciate that. But let's go ahead and take a look at corn if we can. See what the levels on that one are. I know
Yeah,
we visited this one last time, but let's see if there's any movement
yeah.
that you like. Then we'll go to Bitcoin next.
So I have a naked coin chart. I could easily make a coin chart that's not. Let's do that. Let's
Well,
do that.
yeah, I'd love to go through your process of how you make it. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah. So, all right, here's a chart that's all set up, right, with all the
Yeah.
things I look at. So I'm just going to right click on the actual tab at the bottom, and I'm going to say duplicate in new tab. And that's going to bring me a second instance of the copper chart. Then I'm
Right.
just simply going to change the symbol at the top. I'm going to go to, I know it's ZC. Don't ask
Yep.
why it's ZC. And then it just keeps all of my settings, but then goes ahead and puts a corn chart up.
Love it. And what are we looking
Yeah.
at here?
So, the corn's been one of these things which kind of been interesting. It's kind of been sideways. I mean, right now, corn is down. It's down $1.75. Not that big of a deal. But today there are some crop reports today, so be really careful. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you. Do I have them up on my cheat sheet? I don't. But there are two crop reports today from the USDA coming out today, probably pretty soon, and then one at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Those are going to move this around a little bit. So just be aware of when those crop reports are coming out, and just be careful because those things do move the market right now. But kind of sideways. This is a really nice volume profile actually, where you have point of controls on the south end, right? So it's the bias is skewed downward, but there's a couple of gaps here in the volume, but really it's relatively rounded off right now. And again, I expect this this fight to be between S1 and the pivot, with the point of control being a little bit more dominant here. So I don't know that I'd be looking for a breakout on the upside on corn right now. I'd probably be looking to sell off the pivot.
Are there any levels that you're looking to go long or short, or is it just more like, hey, these are the levels, but I'm not really interested in either side?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these markets, right? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. We almost had a strike, with the railroads, right? Which
Yeah.
corn wasn't moving anywhere. There's a lot of corn moves a lot by rail, right? Weather is another factor. So it's a really difficult. You really got to be an expert on this market. You got to pay attention and study, and also think about the seasonals, and also think about import export with what's going on in the world. So that's why kind of technical analysis on a daily and on an intraday chart, I think, are really important when you're trading corn.
All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and move to Bitcoin now, because that when I get an alert from my phone or whatever, it says Bitcoin's at 18,000 and some change, and it's crazy because obviously one point it was at 60,000, and now we're all the way back down to 18s. It looks like we're at 19,305 here. What do you see on the Bitcoin chart, at
Yeah,
least in
so
the 10 minute?
this has been so tough. There's been a pretty strong correlation between Bitcoin and stock index futures the last few days. It's not always like that, but it has been relatively strong. I'm talking, 90% give or take with respect to the NASDAQ. So got to keep that in mind from a day trade point of view as well. But from this particular CME group micro Bitcoin contract, I love using the S3s, S2s, S1s, and pivots as targets here. And my bias right now is going to be it's on the downside. I feel like, it's if you look at a daily chart, well, we could look at a daily chart, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about really quickly. This is kind of negative, right? We had a couple of really big rally days, delay off the equity rally, question mark, Jim Cagnina, and then not nonstop selling off from there. But today we have a big wick at the bottom here, right? This is a big wick. Buyers came in and said, nope, 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 we're not going to close in your rectangle, Jim. This area of support is solid. We like it. We're going to keep it
Yeah.
there. So I'm a little bit worried about the size of that wick, but the trend is down. So again, I'd kind of be looking at those different levels, the pivot levels, to kind of come up with some trade ideas. S1 is an example. Try to get short off the pivot, put a stop. I mean, off the S1, put a stop at the pivot, and it looks something like this. Just kind of right click, and then I'd change it maybe to a 10 contract because it is smaller size. Oops, didn't do it. Didn't take it. Try it again, Jim. 10, check. Good. Pivot. Again, this will be my stop. I'm using the daily pivots as areas of interest right now. There's a gap. Well, hang on a second, though. Hold the phone. There's a little bit of a gap here, which I'm going to respect from last night. So I'm going to respect the gap. I want to be above the gap for my stop, right? Which is yesterday's close. Let's go ahead and do that. Gaps do get filled sometimes, and it might be even too tight. It might be too tight, but that's kind of the trade idea right now for this particular market, I think. Again, I want to stay between the pivots here.
I was looking at charts the other day, and I believe there's a gap in the SPY chart from the pandemic times when we had a whole bunch of gap ups and gaps down. So it'll be interesting if we actually fill those gaps out, but that's like in the 300s and that below 300. So I don't know what your thoughts. Matter of
Okay.
fact, let's go back to the mini if we can.
Yeah.
and we talked about the 10-minute intraday, right? You can see it's kind of bouncing now. Interestingly enough, the point of control, it's kind of where it's bouncing around. And that's, that's one of the reasons we talked about that. It's because like that's where a lot of the action is taking place. Now, what's to be determined is if it breaks to the upside or downside. Of course, I am upside bias here as we are above the level where it was previous resistance. I believe around 38, 90s or so. We're slightly above that area. We'll see if it continues moving on up or not.
Yeah, I'm drawing a rectangle right here. So I like to do this when I'm not sure, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a visual crutch for me. And what I'm saying is, hey, this rectangle, we haven't had a body of a candle close in this rectangle for, well, a long period of time, obviously, but it's really contemporary resistance right now. We're bumping up against it. We tried to get into it once, twice, three, four times, still can't close into it, which is telling me, hey, this could be, this could be an area to kind of for a quick short-term trade. On the downside, the tough part is the point of control is so close, right?
Yeah.
The point of control is so close. But to your point, yeah, we traded through the point of control 4 out of the last 5 bars. It's almost acting like a central line right now.
Would you be interested in going long since you know that it's kind of holding? And like, say for the bottom wicks, I believe are kind of close as well, like 38, 93 or so might be where the bottom wicks are. Would you be interested in going long and knowing that's where your stop loss is? Or do you see better levels to possibly go long and or short when you look at that chart?
Yeah, again, I don't think it's going to be a breakout day. I think it's an easier short position because I could
Okay.
visualize where the stop's going to be. Even if I'm going to be super aggressive, we have R1. It's only right here at 39.20, which I'd be surprised if we get to. But what I would do is wait to get back into the rectangle here, and I would
Uh-huh.
I'd throw an order in to try to get short, and then I would respect the rectangle, or respect the highs. I would respect this VWAP band also, and I want to give myself enough room in case there's just kind of some weird volatility coming in to get out, right? So that's kind of this is a tight trade idea. This isn't a classic E-mini S&P. I
Yeah.
would be more inclined to do that than the opposite, just based on just what today is, what the overall trend is, and kind of this stall up here where see a significant amount of resistance.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned kind of like risk management and things like that because I was telling the chat earlier how I've been making the mistake of kind of like puppy trading. It's a term I learned from somebody else. How it's like, oh, I'm going to take this trade. Oh, this level just broke out. Oh, this one just broke out. Instead of just waiting for like the major levels on the dailies, the weeklies, and whatever, and only specifically trading those. But it looks like you just went in and got filled short there. And
Yeah.
so we'll see how that trade kind of goes along there. Someone in the chat said, I like trading the RTY, but nobody ever talks about it and put a sad face. I believe that's the Russell E-mini. Is that right? Or am I wrong here?
You're absolutely right. And whoever asked that question, come to the opening range show we do. Go to the events page because I talk about it every morning.
Well,
You'll
I
hear,
don't bring it up, so I'll bring it up now. Tell me what you're seeing here intraday, and then we can take a look at big picture as well.
Yeah, so intraday, Russell's looking stronger than all the other stock index futures right now. We have this dominant candle here on the open, a regular trading hour open. That's a big, big dominant candle. Continuation buying continues all the way through this very moment. Series of higher highs, series of higher lows. We cruise through the pivot. This is a case where I wouldn't be surprised if we did see that R1 at some point today because it's demonstrating a lot of strength. And even from a daily chart, real quick, I'll just throw this over real quick. RTY, we have this area of support here is solid. This is like
Yeah.
concrete right here. 1799, 1800. We double bottom. No, we got rejections. We got wicks down in there, or people are, traders are buying things back up again. So this is looking a little bit stronger, even though we're still pretty far down the retracement level right now. I'm interested in the Russell, so that's a great comment.
All right. Appreciate the insight. Now, do you prefer trading the Russell over the ES, or are you kind of like, doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. I think that even though they move systematically most of the time,
Right.
sometimes one chart will look stronger than the other, and then you could decide, hey, is this guy leading the parade or not leading the parade, and then kind of trade around the potential. But no, we look at the Dow as an example. The Dow is in play right here. Do we
Yeah.
put a profit target on our? We didn't. We better do that because we're in the money now a little bit. So right
Nice.
at that point of control. And what you see here, sorry, I kind of just jumped from the Dow. We'll go
No,
back
no,
to the
no.
Dow.
But this is good to know. Yeah.
We're right at that point of control right now, right? And then there's a first standard deviation VWAP band. Let's look at the volume profile because there were some divots here. And a lot of times these divots on the left get filled in. I like it. I like it a lot. So a couple of ways to get out of this thing. One, Hey, 5 handles is good. I want to take it. I want to book my profit. Or, hey, I'm going to wait to see if we can get down to the pivot, which is going to be my preference. Again, a little bit more aggressive, but a lot more patient. And I'm just going to throw a target in there right now. Now, at a certain point, a couple more handles here, I'm going to move my stop to break even. So just that's just, I think, wise at that point. But I want to get a couple more handles out of this thing because I want to break below that VWAP band. I want to, maybe if we could even make lower lows on the previous 2 wicks. That's something else I'd like to think about. And we're almost there right now. We're almost to the lower lows right now. There we go. So
Oh, there
stop
it is.
moving down. Target I'm leaving alone. My hands are folded right now. I'm not touching anything. There's all sorts of emotional baggage that's in my head right now.
I bet, especially because I mean it's 4 points away from your profit target. So I mean, it's tough to not just be like, cool, up $400. I'm gonna go ahead and take the trade. And I love it because we got to kind of show the viewers live in terms of where the action was, where the consolidation was, and your bias was to the downside because you felt like it would be more of a choppy day and we'd come back and would have a breakout day. Is a better way to say it. But you're about 3-4 points away from taking profits on this one, and you're not gonna move it. You're gonna wait.
I'm going to wait. I mean, if it spent a bunch of time at 38.90, then
Yeah,
maybe I'd move my stop. I'd trail my stop to the point of control at 94.
yeah.
But it's, natural volatility is going to make you sweat a little bit. Another trick sometimes is I just move my chart over the P&L. I can't see it. I don't want
Yeah.
that influence in my decision.
That's
That's
actually
usually,
great strategy. Yeah, I like
yeah,
that because I used to look at my P&L all the time, and I wouldn't want to sell because I wouldn't want the green on my platform to go to red after I sell a losing trade. But like, I'm not looking at that. I don't want that to go red. I'm just gonna hold on to it. Lo and behold, I hold on to it, and it's a lot redder later on, and eventually I have to
yeah.
close it and whatever else. So yeah, I love that. That's a great tip for those that are just starting out, or if you've been in the market for a while. Don't look at the P&L. Just trade what you're, make sure you have the right size of contracts, futures, all that stuff, and just trade what's in front of you, aka the chart. And we'll see how things play out. But we've got a big week ahead of us, Jim, and I believe that is going to correspond with our tip of the week. So we'll get to that right now. What you got for us?
So, I mean, it's simple as this. FOMC Wednesday, right? There's going to be a lot of noise between now and Wednesday with volatility in a lot of the markets, all the asset classes, not just the stock index futures. This is going to be, I think this is a case where there's an 80% probability that we're going to have a 75 basis point hike and a 20% probability we're going to have a 100 basis point hike. 75% I think is most likely. If we get 100, then it's bombs away. There's going to be some downward, a lot of downward pressure on the equity markets now. But really, where the rubber meets the road is the press conference at 2:30, because the questions are going to be, hey, we're seeing this kind of shift in sentiment here for a terminal rate. What do you think, Chair Powell? And his answers are going to be important. So the number's important. If it's 100%, look out. 75% is kind of anticipated. It'll come with some volatility, and then that press conference is going to be a big deal.
And how do you want to trade that? Sorry, go ahead. You got right there. Yeah.
No, and having said from the E-mini S&P, I have a key level at 39.05, and I'll show you in a daily chart. So I would probably be done with my day trading, early Wednesday morning, right? I just don't want any part of it after that.
Yeah.
And just let me take a peek at this. Look like we're getting closer here. Sellers, come on. Let me just take a look at the daily chart. So here's this area here. This is about that 05 area I just talked about. It corresponds to a gap way back here in June. It corresponds to an area of a long-term area of what I'm going to call support back here in mid-May, and then again here again in September 6th, early September. And we kind of drove through it right now, but that's an area that could be either support or resistance. It's really important in my mind. So I want to see where we're trading once Powell's done talking Wednesday afternoon. What price levels? Are we above it or are we below it? And that'll help establish my bias.
And of course, we're now headed to the downside on the E-mini. Let's check up on that trade. Did it? Oh, we're so close. We're a 1.5 points away. Are we going to see it?
I don't know. Everybody's like, all right, Jim, just move it up a tick. What's the matter with you?
I
You're gonna
mean,
give it all away.
I mean, I love your patience of not doing it because I would have been like, boop, nope, we're good, we're done. Especially when I see it kind of wicking up like that, I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm gonna go ahead and take this dub over here.
Yeah, and you could be strategic like that. So if the game plan was, hey, when we get to this level, I'm gonna modify my target. You know, if that's a predetermined game plan, I'm cool with that, right?
Yeah.
But over time, when you have a lot of these, hopefully your strategy works more than it doesn't work. And you could kind of feel it go. I think we're going to get closer, but I don't know. We're still, I don't know, a point and a half away. Anything could happen in futures trading, including it could trade
Oh,
at my
oh,
price and we not get filled, right?
oh. I'm like patiently just waiting. We're a quarter point
I know,
away
I know, I
from it.
know.
This is cool. We kind of get to do this live, kind of see it live. Hopefully, obviously, it works in our favor here. You're up on that one about a point and a half away. But while we're staring at the screen, because I'm just literally there it is. Now we got the fill, Jim.
There we go. All right,
Way to
so
be patient.
yeah, so let's get. Don't forget, folks, cancel your stop. You don't want to get a double fill. But yeah,
If you
so
didn't
you know,
cancel your stop there, I assume it would take you long then, if it hit that level.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you're buying
So
back a contract, so therefore you'd be +1 on that. But it's cool. You were
I just
short
want to
one.
remind everybody, though, past performance not indicative of future results. Everybody, keep that in mind. Real-time sim account.
Call your grandma, get the money. No, I'm kidding. Do not get me fired. I'm completely joking. But yes, absolutely. Again, just a reminder, if you joined us late, this is a paper trading account that you're seeing. However, the information and the data that you're seeing is 100% in real time. So the movement that you're seeing is what is happening in the futures market there. Well, Jim, now that you know you've hit that, I assume if you had more than one unit on, your next profit target would be around 38.70, or would it be a little bit closer to that VWAP area? I believe that's what that is, near 38.30s, or excuse me, near 38.80s.
Yeah, so you've identified the VWAP here at 80. You've identified the S1, but I really like the bottom of the value area at this point. So it would kind of be in between here. The bottom of the value, this value area is kind of mature, right? We're not late into the day, but we're well into the day. This is kind of price happiness right now. It's about halfway down into the opening range. I would use this as my target, this 38.72, if I had a second unit on.
And that's because at 22 hours, you kind of had that support, which you're hoping will probably end up being support again. Is that,
Yes.
did I get that right? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, Jim, we've got about 2 minutes. We talked about the FOMC. We've talked about the ES. Do you want to talk about the Qs, or is there any other markets that you think we should kind of cover, especially knowing the big week that we've got ahead of us here?
Yeah, I mean the Qs they're moving, man. They're systematic. It's looking real similar. We did have a gap here that we filled this morning. Just a little tiny gap in the futures, just a little tiny gap, but we did fill it, which was good if you woke up early enough and you anticipated it. It's no longer there anymore. But yeah, this is looking systematic behavior right now. There's some big wicks in the top, big wicks on the bottom of these candles. Remember, the NASI is a little bit more volatile. And that's why I love the micros on the NASDAQ instead of the classic. There's just too much volatility. You got to be really patient with where you put your stops and targets.
All right. Appreciate that so much. Again, make sure you check out Jim and his team at ninjatrader.com/events. They're trading every single day in the morning. And of course, you've also got bars closing towards the end of the day. And that starts at 3 or 3:30, Jim?
So 3:15. So
3:15.
yeah,
Okay.
so we do 3:15. We go an hour. We look for trade ideas on the close. We talk about the morning session trades. We talk about what to look forward to the next day, and all that stuff. So yeah, it's free. Anybody can come. You don't have to even register. Just type in hopefully your real name, but you can type in a fake name if you want. It doesn't matter. Just come and participate, just like on Yahoo. One other point though, keep in mind
What's up?
the British pound currency cross right here. I am very bearish here as well. But remember, today's a holiday in Great Britain because of the funeral for Queen Elizabeth.
That is a good point to know. And this is where it bounced from $1, I believe, right? Or is that
Well,
another currency?
no, the euro is where the dollar is. That's where
That's where
parity
it
is right
was.
here. This is
Okay.
the Euro FX, and I'm bearish here as well. This could be caustically exciting. I shouldn't have used the word caustically. It could move considerably on Wednesday, because again, the differential in the currencies is pretty much the differential of interest rates. And there's other factors, but the differential of interest rates between these fiat currencies, right? This is the euro versus the U.S. dollar. So when the U.S. dollar is even going to be even stronger pretty soon, that's going to cause a flight to the U.S. dollar, which is going to depreciate the euro. And then the euro then comes around, and then the ECB then raises their rates, and this is constant tug of war.
Back and forth, back and forth. God, I appreciate it so much. You can catch Jim again at ninjatrader.com/events. It's in the description. It's downstairs. It's here as well. Thank you so much, Jim, and we'll see you next Monday, pal.
All right, man. Thanks. Have a good one.
See ya.